you all for joining my quarterly panel, district leadership. You know, Red Apple EdCo really works to definitely support districts with parent engagement, but we also, on the flip side, like to highlight good leadership and great practices. And so we do that through our virtual panel so that more people can know that there are people doing the job with probably ideas they maybe haven't thought of or experiences that they haven't had. And it's just our way of putting people in touch with each other. Okay, I think of it like my virtual supper club. Like we get together and here's some cool people you should know about and let's hear their stories. And so today, our panel is all about developing talent within education systems. You all are a part of fairly large education systems, right? And fairly diverse ones as well. And I will tell you that what we are seeing, at least on my end, is a lot of districts are struggling to find talent to be in classrooms, to be in building leadership. And in some cases, even district leadership positions are open. What's interesting about that is that I can't tell you how often I run into teachers who are like, I would love the chance to, move up. Or if not teachers, people who are like in the community, who are like, we need to do something more to support our school system. So I almost think there's like a mismatch between the need and then maybe like where we're looking for talent or the talent pool. I don't know, but that's kind of what I want to talk to you about today. Okay. So question number one, my favorite one to ask everybody, what is your education origin story? What in your life brought you to this work? John, I'm gonna start with you. I know you're ready. Come on, John, 8 a.m. Let's go.
Start off with the EDU origin story, right? Like a superhero origin story. Like, I was thinking Spider-Man. I get bit by this radioactive teacher spider. I became a teacher. What's your EDU origin story, right? Like, honestly, funny story. I'm here in Sacramento, California, state capital, the community that I serve right now. Like, no joke, like my car broke down here 25 years ago, and then I met my wife, and now I'm here. Like I accidentally fell into this community, and have now been an educator in this community, from a volunteer who directed a school play. Then I started teaching at this school. Then I became the principal of that school. Then I became a director in the district. Now I'm the superintendent of a charter organization that's authorized within this district. But my origin story is funny because I was that kid in school on graduation day at high school, back in the 80s. My vice principal looked me straight in the eye and was like, hey, what are you going to do after high school, John? And I said, well, I think I'm going to go to community college. That's a lot of my friends are going to do that. And she said, John, college isn't for everybody. You should maybe think about getting a job or, checking out the military. And I was like,
she said, let me direct your steps just a little bit.
I was not a great high school student. I went off to junior college. I did really well. Here I am, a million years later. I just finished my doctorate about a year ago. And, so I got into EDU kind of through the side door because I ended up as a school teacher. And I was that guy who's looking at kids going like, hey, nobody thought I could graduate from high school or college. I'm looking at you. You got this. And I've been in this zip code now for 25 years as an educator. At my current organization, where I'm the superintendent, I got a couple of campuses, and parents walk into my organization now and they go, Dr. Ike, hey, you're my teacher. Yeah. This is my daughter. So I've now been here long enough where I've seen multiple generations come through and heard the stories come back my way that said, hey, thanks for being the guy who thought I could do it because no one else thought I could. So that's how I got here, and that's what I love about being here. And, I go to the grocery store and I see grandparents and parents, and I live in the community I serve. So it's a good gig, man.
I love that. What about you, Adela? What is your education origin story? How did you get into this field? John, I didn't even know you started out as a volunteer.
Oh, yeah.
Dig into that later. I'm coming out to see you. So, honey, what the world? Go ahead, Adela.
For me, I think it has to be with, I'm going to go back to the fact that I'm a DPS alumni. So DPS is a large school district in Colorado. I graduated from one of our high schools. I won't say what year because you know that's going to age me, but it wasn't too long ago. Let's just keep it there. But I am a product of Denver Public Schools, and I really know what the experiences of our students can be, and I've been in those shoes. I've been there. In fact, I now get to work with someone here at central office at the district leadership team who was my principal when I was in high school. So
Stop it.
that full circle is beautiful. Yeah. Excuse me. I started my career in as an administrative assistant in the Head Start program here in Denver, right? So I was like, this is like, I'm gonna be in this job for like a year tops, and then I'm not doing this for the rest of my life. And I think what I loved about that position is that Head Start really taught me. If any of you are familiar with Head Start, it's a comprehensive early childhood program, but I love their family engagement, family services component of the program. Really, I love the program in general. I wish we could do Head Start for all of our education system, that we could operate under that same model. But specifically for families, it's really removing any barriers to participating to the success of families. And so as the administrative assistant, I would often get calls of like, help me find, a child care center, help me find a daycare for my child. And I would read off of the website everything that I was telling a parent, right? But they were calling me, and the love and the support that they were feeling, and then later to run into them in the community, and they would say, this is my son. Remember, I called you and you told me about the program, and he's doing so great. It turns out he has, a speech impairment, but he's getting the support and the help he needs, and he's thriving. And those were the things that I fell in love with, the work of helping families. And so I am one of those people who came to this career in a non-traditional way. I started in that role as an administrative assistant. As I was going to school, getting my education, I was a mom, I was working, I was going to school, and I fell in love with the fact of being able to help our families, and thinking about how I was in a position, I was at that table to remove barriers for our families. And I really took advantage of that opportunity. I grew within that organization, and eventually—
No, you're getting the question too. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's your origin. See, Adela. See?
Yeah.
That's question two. It's like how you got it. Hold on. All right, come on, Yvette. Tell us your education origin story. This is a good group. I knew it was gonna be. Go ahead.
My education origin story is a little untraditional as well. I had no clue that I would be an educator. I did not go to school for being an educator. I went to school for mass media arts, marketing, sales, communication, media. I thought I was going to be on your well-known newscaster, but that did not happen. I'm originally from the East Coast. I'm an East Coast gal, born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. Went to school in Hampton, Virginia, and did not have a clue that I would be in education. But as I started out in social work, very long time, I was telling Miss Kia, Dr. Kia, that even as a child, I worked at my first job, 14, Department of Mental Health, in a place called Walter P. Carter Center, where I was an intake clerk for emergency services.
And wait, Yvette worked at 14 years old in emergency mental health services. What are you doing? I was like, what? Literally, what?
I got a paper route. I'm throwing newspapers on people at 14. You're
like, whose first job is that?
Right.
Well, that was my first job. It gets even better. I mean, I did do also did another year there, and I was the medical records clerk. And so I found it very interesting reading up on all these people that were here in this facility. So as we move on, I wind up moving to Houston. I did do the Kentucky Fried Chicken. I fried chicken and served all that. I did all that too. Okay. I was then I wind up going into I think Oh, I was with Dr. Blackburn. And Dr. Blackburn was one of the first, and this is here in Houston. I don't know how we hooked up. Who knows? So many years ago. But he was the first optician to bring a superstore to the state of Texas. And so I was part of that as a trainer.
Yeah.
I trained his customer
I hope y'all
service.
know you still ain't her teacher yet,
I
okay? That was like, I'm gonna keep me a job, but I don't know about teaching yet.
I was training opticians. I had to go back to school and learn the optics and all of that. Okay. So then did that for a while. Then I went into um hospitality. Hospitality. And then after hospitality, no, I didn't go into hospitality. I went into Continental Airlines. I worked for Continental Airlines, and it was at a time when they were buying out People Express, New York Air. I'm dating myself, but it was a long time ago, right? So
Yeah.
they merged all these airlines together. They were losing everybody's luggage. So I was like, "Oh, that's a good job," you know. So I'm talking to everybody. Okay, then from the airline, then I took another job in the state of Hawaii as a data entry clerk for Department of Child Support, interviewing candidates for child support for all 7 Hawaiian islands. That
And
was, I want to say, that was the best
that.
job I ever had.
Listen, it's a beautiful. I would have stayed. That's it. That would have been it.
Yes, and then I moved back to the States, went into hospitality, and then became I was started out as a receptionist, then went into marketing, sales for corporate volume accounts. Um, then I felt like I was being called to education under uh, Bill Clinton, President Bill Clinton, and that's how I became a teacher.
I love that. What I love that.
I felt like I was being called, and I kept saying, "What is this?" And it was like I never, you know, I never thought that I would be a teacher, but I was being called. Okay, so I went into this education, had to go back, take some education classes, and all of that. You know what you have to do to teach.
What was your first teaching job, Yvette? I forget because I thought it was at like a community center at first, and then you moved into a classroom, or did I turn that around?
No, it was
Program
through Houston Independent School District, and they hired me as a 4th grade teacher. I went in, I interviewed for a 1st grade position, and this principal said, "Oh no, she hired me for 1st grade, and then when I came for staff development, she said, "Oh, we changed you to 4th grade. You would be such a great 4th grade teacher with all of your experience." And I'm telling you this, I cried every day I taught there. I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is not for me."
Wait, no, you get in the head. You and listen, hold on. What I hope though, you sharing that does for people is like, sometimes we have this idea that the only way to find people who work in our schools is to look for people who are already teachers, but that's not true. Look at you. You had all this stuff. You had lived all these different experiences before you even stepped foot into the education space. And I bet that I told you this though. I bet the skill set that you already had is what has made you highly effective, because it takes a level of flexibility to pick up new careers and pick up new systems and learn how to work with new groups of people, especially all across the country, honey. Hawaii, the East Coast, Texas, okay, probably some other places too. Okay, question 2. In terms of, and I'm coming to you, Adela, in terms of career moves, how did you know you were ready to move into district level education leadership? So like when this position came open, like district office, okay, dun, 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 okay, how did you know you were like, I am ready to walk through this door?
Well, I think for me, what it was for me was my experiences working in Head Start. So leading comprehensive family and community engagement work at the city level in Denver, right? I had been working.
I hear about that. What happened at the city level in Denver with the Head Start? We did not hear that. You left that out of the first part.
So I started as the administrative assistant, and I grew within the organization. After, about 4 years, I became the director of family services for the department. And so I was leading family and community engagement work across the city for all of our early childhood programs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it was a really good opportunity to connect with community, to learn about the different organizations, and to what I think was the biggest impact for me was I was learning from the people actually doing the work. I was learning from those that were in the day-to-day, connecting with families, leading family engagement, leading father male involvement in our community. And I was just soaking up all of that information, brainstorming with them, coming up with new ideas. I started new initiatives to recognize our parents, to honor our community members. And so I was in that position, and I was just like, okay, what else? What more can I do? Right. And it was a place where there wasn't much more I could do there, because I was bound by, what the program requirements are. And because Head Start is federally funded, you stay within those parameters, and that's about it. So I was just thrilled and excited to do more. Of course, because I'm also a parent, I have 3 boys. I knew that the district has a family engagement department, and I said, I want to bring my ideas and my passion to this large organization. And so I think it was a mixture of both being driven from that parent perspective, but also the fact that I've done such great stuff in Denver. And I want to take that to the district. I want to do more. I want to do bigger. And so at the city, my concentration was early childhood within the Head Start program and their family engagement piece. And then at the district, it's everyone. It impacts all departments. It's impacting across our district. So I'm really thrilled and excited that I get to be part of this work, because I think there's so much more that we can do. And we need innovation, we need ideas, we need to be partnering and connecting and learning from others and bringing that in. And I think one of the things I am very good at realizing is that our family engagement practices that maybe worked 10 years ago or even 2 years ago,
Come on.
pandemic, it doesn't work anymore, right?
There you go.
I don't talk to my child's teacher. This is my cell phone. I am an engaged parent because I have this device, but we need to start seeing family engagement through a different lens and meeting our families where they're at. And that's different than what it was before the pandemic. It's different than what it was 10 years ago. The 5 o'clock, the 7 o'clock meeting in the evening doesn't always work for everyone, right? We're working with different types of parents. The makeup of our families is very different, and I think we need to start working towards that. And I'm excited to be able to I guess to have that awareness and openness and opportunity to reflect and bring in those new ideas that we need to be successful.
Well, it's like what you said, when we asked you the first question about your education origin story, you were like, or even, sorry, before that, when we were just getting to know each other, you were like, I wish Head Start's practices could be just spread to everybody. And it sounds like that gets to be something you help to construct, right? Or even something that maybe looks like that, where it's we just have good engagement no matter what across the board. Yvette, I'm coming back to you. Tell me, how did you know, especially considering all the moves you made, what made you say, I am ready to step into district level office? How did you know that?
I did not know. I was not ready. I did not know. I was not ready. I enjoyed teaching. Once I learned how to teach, I fell in love with teaching, and it became such a natural thing. And so, as a matter of fact, one time they had split me. I was campus coordinator and I was teaching, and I was like, this is too much. I'd rather be in the classroom with the scholars than to be running a campus and or helping to run a campus. So when the opportunity came to be a part of an overall campus or be a district employee, everything just kind of fell that way. It wasn't anything that I searched for or or wanted to do. As a matter of fact, I had to go back to school again and get masters and all of this stuff, which I didn't really want to do. Okay, but it was just one of those things that just kept falling in my plate, because naturally I'm a teacher's teacher.
Yeah, yeah.
With the administrative part, the district part, all of that bureaucracy, I could do without. Because
Yes.
as Adela has stated, with the schools that I work with, we provide all of those wraparound services that Head Start does. So our parents and our students, because that's what they need. Okay.
Yeah.
And so whether it's some things students cannot be formed because of the student and its environment, but sometimes it stems from the parent. And so we have to provide that for our communities.
Oh my gosh, I appreciate that. So I hear you saying that you were like, this opportunity came up. It felt like, everything aligned for me to go that way. I feel like this is the story of your life. Okay. You were like, the door just opened. I was just minding my business, going to Popeyes, and suddenly the door was open. And I was like, okay, let's go through the door. And I love about you that you don't hesitate to take the leap. I love that. I think that is a quality you can't teach. You know what I mean? It's like you have to have that internally. So love that. John, how did you know you were ready to move from, hey, I just fell into Sacramento to, I think I might be ready to be a district level leader? That's heavy. How did you?
It's funny. Yvette said, oh, I don't know that I knew. I'm like, get 20 years in the game. I was still going, are we sure we're in the right seat? Is this where I'm supposed to be? Am I doing, is this working out? Because I honestly, like Yvette, I walk into classrooms, 50 times a week. I walk in these classrooms like, oh, I'm on the wrong side of this classroom. I want the kids facing me. I'm standing in the back. I want to be up front. I love teaching, man. I should have never left that gig, but it was a tumultuous time. I'm in this really cool space in California. The little zip code that I've served now for 25 years, been ranked in the New York Times as one of the top 3 most diverse zip codes in the nation. And I think often we talk about diversity, we often think about majority, minority, population. And you walk into like this space that's incredibly diverse, and you're like, whoa. This place is different than anywhere, ethnically, racially, linguistically, socioeconomically. In this little community, you got like this 7-bedroom house over here with this one family living in a big old house. And then next door, you got like 7-bedroom house, like with 3 families in it. And you're like, and they're all going to the same school. And it makes this fascinating place to live and work and serve. But it's a unique service opportunity. And it comes with obvious challenges. We all work in schools. Public schools are challenging, right? And so I'm a teacher. I've become a principal. I got this great run as the principal, but it's during the 2008 recession. Things are going sideways for all of us. There's layoffs and budget cuts. And I'm at this school in this community that needs to be a beacon school. This school has to be a beacon school, has to be the light at the center of the community where people go, hey, if I need something, I can go there, right? Whether you're rich or poor or this or that, right? So we have this thing going where people feel connected to this beacon of light. And we had the great run, right? I mean, I can share you all the stats. Your graduation rate goes up, test scores go up, crime, goes down on campus, on-campus violence goes down, gang activity, all the things that, are targets for our success. They're going the right direction. But then you get this space where the community starts to grow because the economy is starting to ramp up again. And someone goes, hey, man, we need people who get it up at the district office because we're growing. And now you've been in that seat at that school and we're growing more schools. And so we need people from the, I almost became the old guard. It was like, hey, you've been through it and you've done it. We need to go. So I went up to the district office. It was really, interesting for my story, kid, it's like, I'm in the district office. I'm doing good work. I'm digging what I'm doing. But this opportunity opens up to go lead this charter organization. And what I liked about the jump at that point was it gave me the opportunity to work with people who were like in it for kids. And innovation was at the center of everything. And family engagement was like a pillar in this organization. And I thought, man, I could stay in my community, but also have the opportunity to be working in like the dream opportunity of like, we're flexible, we're innovative, and we serve. And it was, I made that move, I don't know, I guess I've been here about 10 years. And I tell you what, I never look back. It has just been a gift to go. So I'm still at district office role, but in this charter organization that's nimble and flexible. Some of our districts, we kind of move like, we all got to move together. So we move so slow. It's like, woo, like the bureaucracy, so I would look at that like the old dinosaur movement.
Yes.
And you can be a little nimble and flexible in this organization. So I've liked that shift, but each rung, each step up into that larger leadership role has some challenges. And the farther I get from the classroom, the more I look sometimes and think, man, have I lost relevance? You know what I mean? Being right there in the classroom, that's the most important gig.
You know what I used to, and I think I told you this, I literally used to do a reading program. I used to go into a reading program in the summers pre-pandemic as a teacher just to make sure I still had it. So I would go for like 6 weeks. We have an organization here that's always recruiting teachers to teach kids and help them like build up their skills in the summer so they don't have summer learning loss. So you do like reading and math for 6 to 8 weeks. And I would always take middle school. And I was like, I just wondered, just if I had to stretch out in it, do I still have it? Turns out I do, right? I was like, I can do this, and it gave me my teaching fix. By the time we got to week 8, I was like, all right then, y'all, gone back to your schools and everything. But I think, how there's this movement to get district level leadership back into classrooms so that the reality of what, people are facing. I welcome it. I'm like, I can take a day and go in there and show you, what I can do, or co-teach with you or whatever. But I also think, when you get beyond that, you do miss it a little bit. But I'm getting ahead of myself to the next question. Okay. What was most helpful to you? I love too that all of you said, basically, and you put it best, John, you were like, this is my opportunity to serve. Okay. I love that. I think that's the through line of all of your stories, is that I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to make this better for kids. And then I also think all of you were like, I was fine where I was, but then this came up and I was like, I can do more, kind of like I can squeeze more juice, out of the orange, so to speak. And I always feel like if you're going to do it, you do it with everything you got. You give everything you have to it, because kids deserve that. Just that's it. Kids deserve it. Communities deserve it. Families deserve it. If I'm going to show up, I'm going to bring everything I got, okay, in my backpack, in my boot, it's coming out to help. And so I love that all of you have moved around with that in mind too, which brings me to number 3. And I didn't hear this in any of your stories, but what was most helpful to you when you decided to make a career shift? Were you like working with a mentor? Did getting an additional degree or certification help you? Did making connections kind of where you were, where you ended up ultimately next help you? Or did you just you were like, I was literally just in my classroom and somebody knocked on my door and was like, do you want to come to work in district office? I am going to start this way now. Back with you, John. Tell us.
What was most helpful as I went into, I think it's what is most helpful at every stage in life, and that is like recognizing that any idea I have is probably a bad one until it's coupled with like the perspectives of somebody else. And so like community, right? Like whether you're a teacher, having a good partner teacher makes all the difference, or having parents engaged in your class makes all the difference, because it's not just about extra set of hands, it's about extra perspectives. That my perspective by itself is pretty lonely and often wrong, especially in the community where we don't all look the same or act the same. So okay, partnership, community. When I was a teacher, I had that. When I became a principal, I had a great team around me, man. These people like brought perspectives, and we engaged and shared leadership in a way that was like, if we aren't calling each other out in this room as a leadership team, then we're doing it wrong. I don't need any vice principal who walks in as a yes man. Like, you got the right idea, John. If you're doing that, you're in the wrong room, because like, I'm always going to be wrong alone. So make the smartest person in the room is the room, make me smarter. And I was really lucky to have that team as a principal. When I moved to the district, it was about first looking around and being like, who's going to be in that room? Like, how am I going to show up in that room? Who else is showing up in that room? Am I expected to go to that room and be a yes man for you? Or are we going in that room and getting on the whiteboard and
kind of getting the lay of the land and
argue?
what the
So
culture was.
I think community. Yeah, community. What has made, any success that I've had as a leader? What has helped to have that is being surrounded by a community of people who are willing to engage, right? Partnership and engagement, community. That's what's been most helpful. I got a bunch of degrees and all them certificates. I don't know. I read all the books and research articles, but it's the people that I collected during those educational opportunities. My colleagues, the people I still jam with on the Twitters, they make me smarter. So that to me is it, man. Collecting really high quality people that are willing to like engage in productive conflict and not always say that we're always right, because alone you're often wrong.
I love that. I'm coming to you, Adela. What is it that was most helpful for you? Were you like focusing on getting a mentor, which is what they tell people, right? Get a mentor, or did you go back and educate yourself more, or did you build relationships and build community, kind of like John was talking about? What helped you with your transition?
I would say the one thing that helped me was I actually had a supervisor at the city and county of Denver, who I will still say Dr. Martinez has been the biggest influence in my life. And he pushed me to go to school, right? He pushed me to go to school. When I met him, I was at the community college. I was 19 years old and, didn't have my life together. And he pushed me. I'm now in process of completing my doctorate, and he pushed me to that as well. So it was the mentor, right? And he believed in me, and he was like, you have so much more potential. You have so much more to give. Of course, there's more out there for you. And he told me, it was really hard for him to lose me. He was like, I want to keep you here, but that would be a disservice to you, right? He's like, you have to go and branch out. And we still connect all the time. We still talk. So it was that mentorship. But I will say the one thing that I think also put me out there was I was bold and I applied for big jobs, like big jobs that I was like, girl, what are you doing? I would tell myself, why did you do that? Right. And I think there's this like belief, right, that first of all, women and Latinas, we don't go for those big jobs. We often don't. And I said, I'm going to go for it. We'll see. Right. Little did I know I got interviews. I connected with people, and I did interview for a previous position here in DPS. I just took a chance, and I had an amazing opportunity to meet with other district leaders and had an opportunity to meet our superintendent. And so what that did for me is it gave me not only exposure to these leaders in the district, but it also gave me an opportunity to really understand more of what they were looking for in a leader. And so I think it really benefited us all because I made an impression, and of course now they knew of me. And so when I applied for a different position, which truthfully I didn't want that job anyway, I want this job. This is the job I want. This is the job I love, and it worked out. And so I think it took courage to put myself out there, to be present, and to know that you have to challenge yourself.
I love that you did that. That is so badass. I love it, and I can say it now. It's so badass that you did that. I was like, I love that your strategy is like, I'm just gonna get in front of y'all. If you hire me, that's fine, and if you don't, you will know who I am. That is amazing, and you are right. Women in general, and then in particular, women of color. I can't speak for Latinos, honey. I'm regular Black, but I can say it's so true that I've talked to so many women who are like, I'm not qualified to do that, or do you think they'll hire me? Or I don't know if I have enough. You know what I mean? So I don't want to get out there, but I think you took the pressure off of yourself by being like, I'm just gonna go for it, and we'll see where the chips fall. That's a real Yvette trait. I'm coming to you, Yvette. Okay. Tell me, what was helpful? Were you even making these connections or getting in front of people or using a strategy like Adela, or you was just like, what's up? I'm rolling in here. Do y'all want to hire me?
Well, I was a little bit of an oddball. I'll just say like that.
No.
I have always been like a loner. I have never been like a group person. Even starting out in education as a teacher, I always went to professional development. I would find places to go to professionally develop myself, right?
Yes, yes.
Because I knew that whatever the other people were experiencing in the classroom was not my experience. So
I done had two
I had to,
careers where
I
I
had
got
to get better at it. Okay.
oh,
So I always took advantage of that in networking. I'm a natural networker.
yes, you are.
And so as I transcended in these other places, and I just would go to these conferences and meet with these people and develop relationships. Uh, and then they would like want me to be a part of stuff, but part of committees, a part of this, a part of that. And so that helped me develop as a leader,
Mm,
because I received other outlooks, perspectives, lenses based on wherever they come from in different places of the United States, or even locally, which we say local in Texas, but nothing is really close in Texas, right?
listen.
So, but I started networking with these people, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I've had tremendous opportunities to work with TEA, which is the Texas Education Agency,
Yes.
working on steering committees to develop or revise teaching standards, to uh, provide or develop a new teacher evaluation system. I've had tremendous opportunities. I ran a high performing charter for 13 years. It was single campus, 2 locations. And we received everything from TBAG, National Blue Ribbon, National Title Distinguished School for Excellence. Always say that because
I
you
know.
get it for two, closing the gaps or excellence. And and I was part of establishing the Texas Charter School Association here in Texas. Um, Served as president of Texas Elementary Principals and Supervisors Association for this region. Region 4 is one of the largest regions in Texas. Um, so I've had some incredible opportunities, and it's through developing professional relationships,
Yes.
being open to learning,
Yeah.
and understanding the needs of who we serve.
Oh, that's the one. That's the one. You know what? I feel like all of you did similar things, but in different ways. Like John was like, I needed to find community and figure out what page everybody was on so I could figure out what foot I needed to step out on while we went to go serve the community we were placed in. And then Adela was like, I had a mentor who was like, you can do this. And then I just threw myself out there. And then you, Yvette, are literally like, and I just got involved in professional organizations and found my tribe. I kind of created it. You know what I mean? I kind of was just like, let me just go check this out. Let's see. You know what I mean? And then you showed up for those relationships that you built. You know what I mean? You're like, hey, remember we met it wherever? Sure, I'll help found, these organizations if you would like to. And so I think for all of you, you didn't do it alone. And what you did was found the people who were in your corner, you know what I mean? And you just got to moving with them. And I love that because those people didn't necessarily have to be a part of your systems at all. They just were people that were still connected to you, though, which is great. Okay, question 4. What has been your greatest surprise as you transition from your former role to your current position? So, for example, right now, I will tell you that my greatest surprise going out on my own was how much I missed being a part of a school community. I did not see that coming. And so I thought this is going to be amazing, but you don't realize how often you interact with colleagues or things like that until there are none. And then you're like, oh my goodness, who do I tell about any of this or bounce these ideas off of, right? So then you start holding virtual panels and talking. Okay, it's like, I was like, so what has been your greatest surprise? Because that one, it took me like a year. Now I feel like I'm better, but at first I was like, dang, just out here, you know? What was yours? Any of
I'll
you?
start if you want me to start. My greatest surprise was really I have a truly strong respect for the principalship. The principalship is the hardest job that you're ever going to have. But if you do it right, if you do it right, you're going to empower and impact so many lives. And would I want to be a principal again? No. I'm doing a transition where I have to be an interim principal for a certain amount of time that I discussed with Dr. Kia. And it's okay. It's the best job that you ever have, but it's the hardest job. And being at the district level where I am, I don't think that everybody understands. If they've never been a principal, they don't understand the responsibility they have to not just to all the stakeholders that are involved. Yeah. And being able, if you were there to support, change lives, to empower, that's just doesn't affect the scholars that you serve. That impacts the whole community in which you serve. And that's a lot of weight and responsibility that you have to be under. So I think for me, looking at it in a different lens, when you're in it, you're just doing it, right? But when you go to another lens, you're like, oh my.
Yeah. I agree and thank you. Okay, come on, Adela or John, which one of you?
Adela, you want to jump in?
I can jump in because I think you'll be able to wrap it up better than I will, John. I've never been part of a school community. I've always been in a district role. I went from working in government, right, and then coming to a district role. And so I've never been part of a school community. So I really don't know what that feels like. But I think what has surprised me with, coming into this role is very similar to what Ms. Yvette said, was that I did not realize the level of responsibility, and I think it's accountability as well, right? That I'm held to because I'm in a district role, because I am serving community wide, and that's it's a group, it's like a huge honor and a great privilege to be able to do this. But it's also like that other like accountability part, right? This responsibility that we have, that it's not just a fancy title, that it's not just an office that, that you get to be at central office, right? But it's really like your constituents are, it's our community, it's our students, it's our families. And that I think is a huge realization that I had. And it's also hard when you have, everybody has a different perspective. Everybody has a different idea. Everybody wants to, it's a lot, right? And so it's a lot of responsibility, but it's also a huge opportunity.
It's so hard, Adele, because you're holding yourself accountable to multiple perspectives within the community. So when you do right by one constituency, you're like, oh, this constituency over here doesn't realize why I did that, but look at all the good it did, but you didn't feel the impact. And you at the center of that feel responsible and accountable. And so it's always a win-loss scenario. Yeah, that was well said, Adele. Thank you. I'm listening to both of you all, and I just want to say just ditto. It's that accountability piece. It is that, that you nailed it for me on the principalship, because I think as a classroom teacher, you are these 32 bodies in front of you, the 192 on your caseload, periods 1 through 6, whatever it is, like you're at the center of the room. And you remember early in your teaching career when you're at the center of the room and some crisis goes down and everybody goes and looks at you, and you're in that classroom, you're like, hey, we all know who's in charge right now. Yeah. It's me. I'm in charge. I'm the grown up. I know, right? You're all taller than me, but I'm the guy in charge. And then you step into that principal role, and it is surprising and mind-boggling what happens when not just a classroom full of kids look at you, but a whole school looks at you. And it's a school of children and adults, and that includes the community of parents. And all of a sudden, the lockdown happens. and the media shows up and the police show up and you are like, or the phone call happens about that tragic news on Sunday night and you know you got to bring in counselors on Monday morning, or the text message at 5 a.m. and you know you don't have 3 more substitutes, but you need 3 more right now. Like that incredible responsibility as the school principal. I mean, that's the e-ticket at Disneyland. If anybody remembers the ticket system from Disneyland back in the day, like that principal role is so tough, man. But what's been surprising to me at the district level or the next leadership level is like, when you said it, like when you're in it, man, you're like, you don't realize the trauma that you're experiencing or the secondary trauma that you're experiencing. You're just go, 24/7, throw it all in. You're in all the time. You're always on. And then you step up to this other role and you're coaching principals and you're watching them and you're like, oh, whoa, take care of yourself.
Yes.
In a way that maybe I didn't take care of myself. I wish someone would have told me this, right? But like, hey, whoa, slow down. It's going to be okay. So the big surprise for me, I think, going into the district level was looking at people who were involved in constant high levels of stress over long durations of time. I mean, this last few years, we can all acknowledge has been unusual as well. But like coaching people who are in these critical roles is like fascinating. It was surprising to me to watch what that looks like and then to grapple with, how can I be of use to you? How can I be of service to you who are serving so many? And sometimes it's just creating a space and being like, you want to come sit down and breathe? You want to just like space, like you want to breathe? So yeah, I guess, Kia, that was really surprising to me, is to see people do a role that I had done and to watch them do it and be like, oh, wow.
You know what?
Wow.
I feel that, but I also felt like when I stepped into like district level leadership, it was easier to see where we needed to prioritize. Does that make sense? Because I feel like when you get out of your own building, right? When you're out of a singular building and you look from a systems level, which is all Adela's been looking at. Okay. She's like, I've been looking at the system, period. But when you only focus on your own building, it's like you are living and dying by what
Sure.
happens there, right? And then when you step back, it's easier to give guidance and reassurance, to your point, John. You know what I mean? And to say, this is the direction that we need to go. And to help give people, because you're right, principals are like, what am I going to do? And if I screw this up, everybody's going to look at me and be like, you screwed this up. And now I have a whole Facebook hate page dedicated to you, right? So it's like, what do I do? But I think being able to guide some of that decision making and say, this is the direction we need to go, and this is why this is important. This is the direction that we need to go. I know it's uncomfortable. I can be the bad guy for you. You know, help people be like, okay, maybe we can do that. Okay, we're running long. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get to it. So, in your opinion, what systems level changes do we need to make to retain and develop education talent? I would say for me, we need to look in non-traditional places. That's it. I am like, I talked to a principal and they said they are currently looking all over Indeed for educators. And they're like, no, I'm not looking for people who are like former teachers. I'm looking for people who like worked in any kind of social work or ancillary, like that, you know, come from early childhood, like Adele, you know, like done any of that stuff and bringing them in here and thinking about alternative certification. I think we need to let go of our traditional view of who's going to be effective. That's just my take. We need to get over that. Alternative certification programs are everywhere. So we need to look for something else. What do you all think? I'm gonna start with you, Adela.
Going back to kind of where I originated my work, right, in Head Start. And this is a philosophy that Head Start, it's about growing your own, right? It was about bringing parents in as our they were the parents who we were serving. They had a student in the classroom. We started bringing them in as volunteers. And then before you know it, you know, they're involved in parent training classes. And then before you know it, they're doing a child development associate. And before you know it, they're teachers, right? I get chills thinking about it because I have a colleague who, she was a single mom and she started as a Head Start parent and worked 25 years. Eventually she was a coach when she retired, but she became a Head Start teacher, you know, served in many roles and eventually, retired as a coach of other Head Start teachers. So I believe in that, of like growing our own. And in Denver, we had launched a parent to para program where we would have a parent who would, then would become a paraprofessional. And we want to do that. I have colleagues in our HR department who are like, we need to do that for many other positions as well.
I'm making a note of that one. That's good.
I'm right.
Yeah.
It sounded like parents to para.
Yes. Everyone is short-staffed. I definitely
writing that down.
Yeah.
You wrote that down?
Parent to para program, right? It's like our para volunteers, we train them, we prepare them, and we help them become paras in our classrooms. That was very successful here in Denver. Excuse me. Another one I think is the non-traditional certification. Absolutely, I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
There were many times when I wanted to become, yes, in the non-traditional certification program. Absolutely. We have it in nursing. We have it, nurses have this program available, right? I once dealt with a nurse who had a degree in architecture, and she did 1 year of an alternative like certification program and became a nurse and loved it. So I think you need to do more of that. But I will be honest, I don't think that's going to solve our problem. Our problem is much bigger than that. And the truth is that we don't value education the way we say we value education. And I say that because the compensation that we give our teachers, and I'm not saying just in Denver, I'm saying across this nation, and we saw it during the pandemic. We saw the impact that not having teachers in classrooms, essentially serving as childcare providers for our nation to function. We saw the impact that had. Right? Our nation could have stopped functioning if we didn't have our educators, who many of us parents, that's our childcare, right? But we don't value them in the way that we need to. We don't compensate them in the way that we need to. They are teachers, they're our educators, but oftentimes there are therapists in the classrooms, right? There are social group leaders, they're friends to our students. They're much more than just educators, and we don't do enough to value and compensate them. And so it's very hard for anyone, I think, to say, I've developed this career in government and I'm going to take a $20,000 pay cut to become a teacher.
Yes, I love that. You better go ahead and mic drop on us. Go ahead. What you got, Yvette? What do you think? What systems level change do we need to make to develop and retain education talent?
Oh, that is such a hard question, because we have no control over foundational beliefs. We have no control over, what do we call these, generational philosophies.
Yeah.
That's very hard. We are, I don't even know which generation we're in now. Because I'm part of the baby boomers. So whatever generation we are from that generation, I do not have a clue, but I do know the values are different.
Yeah.
And it is about money for some folks. For some folks, it's about titles. For some folks, they have the teaching gig, but they're more concerned about the side gig that they have. So the teaching gig is not important to them, because what's important is that they get off on time so they can do their side gig. Yeah. And so when you're looking at all of this, you truly need that family engagement piece to bring it all together. If we don't find a way to have families engaged in a way that we can strengthen education and all of us grow together, then we are going to always feel like we're 2 steps behind every time we try to go ahead further. And that's very critical. We come from being servant leaders, and what that means, whatever it takes to bring it together, to create, to build. But everybody doesn't come from that.
Very true.
And so you got to find like-mindedness, and those type of beliefs are going to be in untraditional areas. They may not all want to start out as educators, just like I didn't, and you didn't, and everybody else on this call,
Yeah.
pretty much. But it's just that family engagement piece is needed so strong. What does that look like? Is it going to be like providing surrogates for these students or scholars who do not have that support? Or like Adela said, with the parent to para program, we have to find ways to empower our parents to become involved with our scholars in order to continue to grow them and not lose them.
I love that. Go ahead, John.
No, everyone said a mouthful. The question, Kia, so it's interesting because you asked about recruitment and retention, and Adela brilliantly said, "Hey, recruitment is filling the funnel, right? We got to bring people into this industry so that we create, a teaching, group that fills our classrooms. But recruitment's only half the deal. We know that teacher retention, especially now, is at an all-time low. That it is plausible that 50% of those people we get in the funnel don't stay in the job 5 years. So recruitment's everything. And I love Adele's premise that, like, you look at the GYO, the Grow Your Own programs out there. I think indicate that people who already feel connected to a community of learners, like I'm a parent here, now I'm a para here. If you could take me from para to teacher, I'm already embedded in this community, so I'm more likely to stay. So I love these recruitment techniques that recruit from within a community, because then these kids, look, Adele, you grew up in that district that you now serve so brilliantly. It's such a good example. Like, we need to find people who are already embedded in the community to recruit. So I love these recruitment conversations, but I think the retention piece, although compensation 100% has got to be on the table, but also what Yvette said, like, hey, times they are changing. We build schools to serve people like, my age, like we're building it wrong. Adela said, hey, the cell phone, this is the new engagement tool. Like, I think organizational culture has to be on the table. I think we need to train leaders to systematically approach organizational culture from a paradigm that says, hey, are you part of this thing? Or is this thing like supposed to tell you what to do? If you're entering into an organization where you're just supposed to follow the rules, oh, you're a teacher, you're at the bottom of the totem pole, we're going to tell you what to do. And well, then this generation of teachers, they ain't staying. Right? They want the side hustle, because the side hustle offers flexibility, offers some celebrity, offers some things that motivate them. Well, then how are we going to take those values and embed them in our organizational culture that says you have some ownership over the direction of this organization? You are a leader in this organization. You are empowered in this organization. You are not just a cog in the machine. 30 years ago, that worked. Hey, welcome, cog. And that don't work anymore. We need to create these organizational cultures that say we are all a part of the directionality of this organization, and that your voice matters, that you are heard, that you are seen, that you are valued, that you are acknowledged as competent, that you are acknowledged as educated and impactful and powerful. And when people feel that, especially people who are recruited from within the community already through these Grow Your Own movements, that's what's going to create retention. Right? So you go into Indeed or EdJoin and try to pull people in, cool. But that's that old cycle of like, come on in, follow the rules. Here's the handbook, go do your job. Those people aren't naturally embedded. So you have to have a systematic approach to organizational culture that makes people feel embedded and empowered in the community of school, because school is a community event. Learning is social.
I love that you just said a mouthful, but I'm gonna add two things. First, think about the parent to parent program, right? Which I haven't even seen, Adela. So this is just me taking the name and thinking about what the heck that probably looks like. But I can start as a parent and I have the opportunity to grow and develop, right? But we stop providing those growth opportunities when people hit the classroom. It's like you get your school-based professional development and that is it. We don't think about Yvette. Yvette said, I found all these different opportunities to develop myself, but that's because those opportunities, I'm assuming Yvette, weren't necessarily present in the school building that she was in. Do you know what I mean? I think we assume that people become teachers and then we're like, I'm gonna just talk to you for like an hour once a week and you know what you're doing. We don't invite teachers into community to help set that culture. And then above them, like we were talking about before, we don't do that with principals either. And so then principals are like, hell, I gotta tell y'all about this new curriculum. We got this SEL focus. We got to do all this stuff. And then teachers are like, we didn't get a choice in that. And the principal doesn't know how to invite them into community so that even though we got to do it, we figure out how to approach it. And so then everybody's like, I'm out of here. So of course, if I'm a parent, I feel like I'm growing in my knowledge till I become a para. But as a teacher, it's like, where is my growth? Where is my chance? You know, besides wanting to be an administrator, what can I do to keep developing and getting better? And to me, that's the missing link to retention. And that's why I side hustle, because I'm learning a new skill. I see, you know, the benefit of it. I get the chance to develop myself. You know what I mean? And people are responding to it. What are you gonna say, Jeff?
You know, just I was wanting to respond to that idea that we get these teachers, and the only way that they can move into leadership is to go into administration. And I think that's a total false premise. I think that's a false premise. Every teacher is a leader, and when they feel engaged as leaders and feel empowered to actually, when their voice helps shape the organization, they know it, they feel it, and they want to stay there. Because a lot of teachers don't want to become an administrator. I mean, look at me, I'm only 26 years old and I look terrible, right? I'm just kidding, I'm older than 26. But like this job, not everybody wants this job. So if you can lead from where you are, you might stay in that organization. So yeah, I love that concept, Kia, that like, hey man, get people in leadership roles, but you don't have to be an administrator to be a leader. You're a leader for the role you're in.
That's exactly it. Okay, last question. Sorry.
And that's why, before you go on, that's why that collaboration piece is always so underrated, but it's needed. Because if you come off as I instead of we, and then you can still come off as we, but if you don't have that collaboration within that we, then they know it's just I, right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about when Michael Fullan talks about deep learning, it's always that collaboration piece that brings it together. And so when we say we're collaborating with stakeholders, understand what your children needs are, understand what your staff needs are, because I'm gonna tell you this, your staff is going to be with you longer than they're going to be at their own house. So you have to understand that balance that's needed in order to retain them.
I love that. Okay, thank you. Last question. If you were given one piece of advice to someone looking to make the leap into district administration, what would you tell them? Mine would be have a plan. I want you to go in thinking this is something I feel like I can bring. Now the plan may change, but at least have a plan for what you think you can do. I'll pick any of you. Jump in there. It's our last question. Go ahead.
Who wants it?
Go, John.
I would say to anybody going into district administration, just make sure you know who your constituency is before you step in. And I know we all want to say we put students first, and I'm 100% down with that. But here's the deal: you can't leapfrog over the teacher and save a kid, because there's not enough of you to go around. When you become the principal, your job is to look out for those teachers, because if you do a good job taking care of your teachers, they will take care of those children. And the minute you step in front of a teacher and try to do their job as the principal, then you've disempowered the teacher, and there's not enough of you to go around. So your job as the principal is to feed, grow the teachers so they can do their job. And when you go in that district role, it's even more important that you understand your constituency, that you're like there to serve the leaders who are serving the teachers who are serving the children. And I think we forget that sometimes. And so we want to legislate from on high on what's good for kids. And you're cutting out like, who are all the people between you and the kids? So how is that system that you're creating actually going to manifest through the layers of people that you're trying to influence? It's just an interesting paradigm to keep in mind.
I love that you said legislate from on high. It brings me joy. It's the on high for me. All right, Yvette and Adela, which one? Go ahead.
I think what I would add to this is to also have a community, right, for yourself, because you know, to the points made earlier, you know, we have to be mindful of, like, yes, this is a new role and it's different, and I will say, I have to admit, sometimes leadership is lonely, and so it's having that connection, that the network that you can tap into, like when you're needing to problem solve or have a thought partner who you can go to. So I would say it's absolutely knowing who your constituents are. Like, that should be your number one thing, and knowing that it's going to be different from what it was in your previous role, right? And what it is here, and then having that supportive network of just someone you can say, hey, I just need a thought partner, like, just think through this with me, you know, because sometimes you may not have a neutral source within maybe a district leadership role, or sometimes it's not appropriate to reach out and talk to these to someone else in the department about something that's happening, right? So really having a neutral external person who you can kind of have a thought partner. I read recently about having a journal, like, and I'm really thinking about that. They talk about having a leadership journal where you can come back and, you know, kind of reflect, because it is lonely and sometimes you don't have anyone to vent or to talk to. So those are just my thoughts. Yeah.
I love that. What you got, Yvette?
I would just tell them to remember that leadership is shared.
Oh,
Sometimes as new leaders, we go in and we want to think that we are large and in charge, but you cannot lead without support. Leadership is shared.
I love that. And then finally, if anyone who hears this wants to get in touch with you, are your LinkedIn DMs open? Can they reach out to you via LinkedIn and say, hey, I heard that roundtable you were on and I'd love to ask you questions. Is that okay?
100%.
Absolutely.
And I welcome that. I want to add that I welcome that, because I think we need to, I have to remember that I am where I am today because somebody pulled me, somebody mentored me, somebody guided me, and I want to be able to do that for others. And not only do I want to do that for others, but I also want to learn from others. I also think that there's, just as we're here, you know, learning from each other, there's so many other large networks that we can tap into that we can learn from as well.
Yes, I definitely think joining professional networks is a key to success in general. Well, thank you all for going over a little bit with me and being a part of our roundtable. I think that you raised such salient points. I really appreciate the work each of you are doing in your different roles in different parts of the country. And I'm glad you took some time today just to share your experience and your insights with us. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much. If you don't have anything else, y'all feel free to wave bye to the people. Bye, friends. Thank you.